Hi everyone! During this video, I'll be explaining our process of coming up with the idea for our research proposal. We started off with the introduction. This section begins with introducing our subject area of interest, which in this case is the motivation of employees. We identified a research gap concerning the lack of research conducted on the motivators behind voluntary expatriates leaving their home country to go and work abroad. This led to the creation of our research question. What motivates voluntary expatriates in Amsterdam? Additionally, there's the aim of our study. This is to assess the reasons behind voluntary expatriates having left their home countries to come and work for the Indian company Apollo Tyres, that has a branch right here in Amsterdam. In order to answer our research question, semi-structured interviews were conducted as a means of collecting data on the subjects in question. We also mentioned that this research will contribute to a greater understanding of voluntary expatriates' motivation and will consequently allow for setting some ground for further research to be conducted under this topic. In order to conclude this section of the paper, a short description of the contents of the rest of the project was added in order to prepare the readers for what they will find throughout the paper. Next is the theoretical framework. To better understand our research question, there are some main concepts that were important to study and get a hold of. In order to do so, we started off by defining motivation. We then mentioned the benefits of having a motivated employee and tried to convince the reader of the shortcomings of having an unmotivated employee in an organization. We then move on to an introduction on the different types of motivations there are, namely extrinsic and intrinsic. To make the reader more familiar with the concept of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, we presented contemporary theories such as self-determination. Moving along, we explain our motivation behind choosing this topic. The growing population of expatriates in the Netherlands inspired us to investigate what it is that really motivates them. More specifically, we chose to focus on voluntary expatriates as they form a big part of this population, and there has not been much research conducted on this specific group. To provide a little background on this topic, we explained what self-initiated or voluntary expatriates are. Furthermore, this section explored various motivating factors that are believed to be the main reasons behind expatriates moving overseas. In conclusion, the theoretical framework mentioned the shortcomings of the literature available on this topic and how we are going to address them. The third part of our research proposal was the method section, which begins with the choice of the research method. The one that we chose is grounded theory. It will allow us to explore the mentioned topic of interest and lay the foundation for future research. Next, there is a sampling method. We were looking for a sample of voluntary expatriates and found it in the Amsterdam branch of Apollo Tyres. The contact was made through a researcher's personal network, which makes our sampling method purposive convenience sampling. The participation in our research will, of course, be voluntary. To ensure that, we will give every participant the consent form and have a form signed by the representative of Apollo Tyres. We also had to address some possible ethical issues. To ensure privacy and confidentiality, all the recordings will be stored without the names of the participants and delete them after the project is done. Naturally, no names or personal information will be used in the paper. Next up, we should ask ourselves how our interviews should be conducted. A final decision was made upon semi-structured interviews. These have some elements of the structured interview, for example, some predefined questions, but they don't heavily restrict the interviewers in possibilities for exploration. They can still ask follow-up questions and still adapt the interview process to their needs. Furthermore, we considered the settings of the interview. We decided that multiple interviewers are the better choice as it allows for more objectivity. Likewise, we think that an audio recording will enable us to gain better data after transcribing it afterwards. Ultimately, we are able to perform the interviews in person and we estimate the length to be around 15 to 30 minutes. After the interview and data are collected, we have to code it. This is performed in 3 different steps. First, open coding, then axial coding, and finally, selective coding. In a nutshell, these different coding processes try to find common themes in data, codes, and then filter them and find interconnections. After this process, we should end up with one or a few single core concepts. The last part of the method section is about the standard of qualitative research. The main characteristics are validity, reliability, and generalizability. The research is valid when it actually investigates the research question, and the collected data is collected in the right manner. Reliability is about making sure that the collected data is consistent. Both these factors can be improved by having multiple researchers conduct interviews, collect data, or analyze data independently. Lastly, generalizability relates to which situations the research results can be transferred to. Since all our interviewees are from the same firm, the generalizability is limited. Thank you for sticking with us for the whole video.